Welcome to our podcast.
Its name being a complete mystery, we will soon find out.
It's a mystery to you, it's a mystery to us.
Mystery that will hopefully soon be solved by Scoobs and the gang. But, I'm Gabby.
I'm Allison.
And let's just jump right into the shit right here, man.
Right now.
This podcast contains mature themes and language that may not be suitable for some audiences.
Listener discretion is advised.
Cheeto. All the people with misophonia right now are going to be shrieking, turning off the podcast, and throwing their phones.
That's me.
I
watch
apologize.
a video and I hear someone chew, I get so enraged, I fucking throw my shit.
Like, I will appreciate the perfect sound of a chip, but if I can still hear it, you are dead to me.
Oh, even the initial crunch, it's just like, oh, fuck.
Flamin' hot.
Chester the molester.
Oh, no way. That has some prevalence to this episode, unfortunately speaking.
What, Chester the molester?
Some part of that. That's a
Oop.
terrible segue.
Oop.
You're welcome. Because for the first episode, I decided to pick one of my favorite cases that got me into true crime in the first place with case studies, and that's the case of Mary Bell. You know that case at all?
No, I don't.
Oh, you are in for a ride, my friend.
Great.
Oh, yeah. I'm not Minnesotan or Canadian, but I live close enough to Canada to say so. So there we go. So we are going to go all the way the fuck over the pond to Scotswood, which is part of Newcastle, district of Newcastle upon Tyne in Northumberland, England. And we are going to go back to the summer of 1968. Way back there. And Scotswood wasn't exactly the best area to grow up, like economically depressed. The working class was really hardworking, but it was just rampant with crime, criminal behavior, domestic abuse was like expected to happen there. It was hella common, but at the same time, it was a close-knit community where you would still have the kids because they had nothing better to do. They would be playing outside, doing whatever the hell, and their parents would be inside not giving a shit.
Exactly.
And it's
yeah.
like, I just live in one of the worst areas in England at this time. I'll just let little Johnny run outside and hopefully not get kidnapped.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly. But, so we're going to go back to Scotswood in the summer of 68 where some kids unfortunately came upon a very gruesome scene because you know how kids are. They like to explore shit even though you tell them not to. Billy, don't go in that abandoned building. Who knows what might be in there? Except this time they found a little 4-year-old Martin Brown in an abandoned boarded up house. He dead. Just boy's dead.
Oh, fuck.
With blood and saliva trickling down his face.
Ooh.
But so the kids ran. They got the cops. They got what do they call the cops in England? They got the
shit.
the insert cute word.
Popo. I don't know.
Not the popo. Editor, insert cute word for English used for police. Here, thank you.
Police.
Just start with a
I'm
B.
terrible. When the police were examining him, like, of course, investigating the crime scene, they found no visible signs of violence or trauma, like stab wounds or like blunt force trauma to the head or like anything like that. But at the same time, you gotta think, like, you know when you see kids running around, they like smack into a tree or smack into like a window at the grocery store.
Kids fucking hit everything.
And then they run off, they cry for 2 seconds, stand up, and run off to get a cookie.
Yeah.
Like, kids are astoundingly resilient when they're young. That's the only way I can put that.
They're like little pillows. You can just chuck them at the wall and they're just like, ah.
I've seen way too many a video where a kid is chucked through the air
And they're
because they're
fine.
terrible. I don't go looking for this stuff. Shit happens. But like they heal ridiculously fast. So if there was any bruises, any nothing, if it wasn't like intense trauma, the police probably wouldn't have been able to tell. So when the case happened, they had nothing really to go on. So the case was left open. Then 2 months later, around July 31st, they were like, well, you're thinking like, oh, one kid was accidentally, like he died. Maybe he had a seizure. Maybe that's why there's blood on his face. Maybe that's why there's drool everywhere. Stuff happens. He could have had something happen to him. 2 months later, they found 3-year-old Brian Howe was found by neighborhood kids in a little industrial area that was all construction going on. He was laying between 2 cement blocks. There was bruises on his neck, which like if you couldn't see anything on Martin and he was 4, be able to see something on a 3-year-old shows a bit more malice.
Yeah.
More like I want to hurt you, which I'm no expert in this by any means at all. I love forensics. I wanted to go into forensics. Girl got no money for that shit, so I didn't keep going. But the kid was obviously strangled, and when authorities looked more onto like evidence, they found just like puncture marks, like little baby stab marks, and like cuts and different things on his legs, his arms, like hair shaved off, hair plucked out. His no-no spot, which is the only way I'm comfortable talking about that with a 3-year-old child.
Yeah.
His no-no spot was mutilated a little bit, which is a great way to start a first episode. I know that. But nearby, they found a broken pair of scissors, which was probably what was used for that. And a razor, like probably from a disposable razor or something, just a throwaway razor or a box cutter. But they also found a mark on Brian's stomach that was distinctly just a crude shaped letter M. M for Mary. Oh, look at that. Wait, we have Mary Bell, 10 years old at the time, and her friend Norma Bell, who was 12-year-old at the time, were among the first suspects that police decided to look into, which is kind of weird. You would think it would be more adults, like people that have more of a reputation, like built up, like, oh, he likes kids, stay away from him. She likes to bring kids into this, try to like use them for like ransom or like do some sort of weird thing. With like drugs or whatever, like you would think in a neighborhood like that, you'd know who to stay away from. Mm-hmm. The fact that all the adults even just like pointed and said, look at these kids, something's effed with them.
Holy shit.
That says something. Now, before I go on to that, I'm just going to go a little bit back on Mary Bell because she is, obviously speaking, the focus of this. Mary was born on May 26th in 1957, and her mother was then 17-year-old Betty McCricket, who made her living as a sex worker, which, girl, you do what you have to do to make a living, but Betty had just a little reputation about her. She always left Mary alone.
Yeah.
Whether it was with her family or her then husband, Billy Bell, who she married after Mary was born, but it was just like an idea that he might have been Mary's father. She obviously had, I hate saying obviously, but she had no idea really who her father could have been.
Yeah.
But it was, frankly speaking, a match made in hell because Billy was a lifelong petty criminal and a drunkard. And while Mary was alive, she is a little kid, while she was younger, he was arrested for armed robbery. Meanwhile, Betty...
Escalating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Betty herself was an alcoholic and just would, like I said, she would frequently leave Mary alone, which she would just go to Glasgow where her family lived, and she would stay there and just do her job. She would turn her trick. She would get her John. She would make her money and then come back after like a few days to a week, but she would like leave Mary alone to like the neighbors or whoever was around. I don't think I couldn't find anything really that said that Betty, Mary's mom, was formally diagnosed with anything mental disorder wise, but her family said that after her father passed away that they noticed her getting more erratic, depressive. Maybe her father's death like brought something out. Like I hate saying like manic depression, bipolar, something was just exacerbated to the point that she, like her family all around just noticed like something is up, something's not right. But it was clear to at least a certain extent that Betty didn't see her daughter as like, oh, I have a baby, oh, this is my kid, oh, this is this. She saw her as a, now I have this thing I'm responsible for, but frankly speaking, I don't want it. So there were multiple occasions where Mary seemed to kind of narrowly evade death is the best way to put it. People saw like she accidentally fell out a window. And there were times when Mary seemed to just almost overdose on sleeping pills.
And how old was she?
This is like when she was like young, like 3, 4, 5.
And
like
sleeping
young
pills?
Well, their family members or other people even around at the time would just say that they thought they saw Betty giving her some type of candy.
Ooh.
Or like, oh, her mom was giving her sweets, and it's like those sweets are Thallium, sleeping pills, something.
Yeah, okay.
Like just to knock her out, which who knows what kind of like physical damage that could have done to her.
Yeah.
And like aside from just psychologically just fucking her up.
Yeah, developmental.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially like those are like some of the crucial development ages when kids are young. So Lord knows what that could have even done to just how her brain works and processes things, which could make sense to what happens later. There was even a situation where Betty was so desperate to get rid of Mary that she saw like a stranger, like a woman walking by, and she's like, hey, you want a kid? Here, she's yours. Like she literally just like tried to give Mary to someone else. Yeah. But her family was like, no, we can take care of her when you're gone. We can do something. We can give Mary back. Mm-hmm. And Mary avoided that under the table adoption, which is the best way I could put it. Off the book adoption. Huh. But aside from just that kind of abuse, like Mary just experienced not even necessarily to herself, but just even witnessing just a shit ton of violence. Now, I already said that Scotswood at that time was just not a great place to live in itself. And the certain street they lived on, I forgot what it was, like White Castle or something. Literally not the burger place, but like White Castle or something close to that. Both her parents were alcoholics. Her dad was belligerent. He was violent. Didn't necessarily say if it was towards Mary. It could have been towards Betty easily. But at the same time, being like a poor, economically down section of Newcastle, you can expect the houses are smaller, right? There's not a lot of space to move. But let's just say Betty was dedicated to her job. So Mary wasn't necessarily shoved in another room when she was taking care of her clients.
Ooh.
Like, Mary would witness
don't like that.
These appointments, which she later described as being, like, sadomasochistic. Like, I don't know what kind of, like, dominatrix, BDSM, I don't know, like, some kind of, like, there was inherently to what a kid would understand as just straight up violence.
Yeah.
In that aspect. And if you have, not saying all men that pay sex workers are scummy, but just inherently speaking, because of that section that wasn't necessarily the best anyway, high in crime, all that stuff, it didn't take long to have Mary be offered up into also those appointments. Her mom did.
Oh, I didn't want to hear that.
I know. And I was just like the sad thing is, it's all obviously a big note, but at the same time, like, you literally don't hear much about it. And it's like, what is, like, this severely fucks a kid up.
Yeah.
But, like, as a byproduct, like, Mary still went to school. She did this. Like, if you look up her picture, like, she's, like, an adorable little girl with, like, bright blue eyes, little, like, bobbed hair with the little bangs across. Like, she looks hecking adorable. But at the same time, because of all of this, like, with the abuse anyway, you process it differently depending who you are.
Yeah.
Mary just came off as very, well, her teachers said she was extremely bright, very smart for her age, but she just came off as behaviorally dysfunctional, but also she absolutely terrified the other kids.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, one thing kids tend to do is, like, if someone, like, take her dad, probably, like, think stereotypical alcoholic, like, in media, you're thinking, if someone makes him mad, what's going to happen as soon as he gets mad? So she would think that's the proper reaction if someone makes her mad.
Exactly.
So she was very quick to anger. So kids would say, like, if someone, like, who knows, like, if someone, like, stepped on her foot, if someone accidentally kicked sand at her, if someone did this or that.
Lash
like,
out.
Like, they said her head would start to, like, shake. Like, she would start to shake her head. And then she would go for the throat.
Oh.
Literally speaking, she would go for the throat. She'd try to choke whichever kid, like, was pissing her off. But... And then when the teachers asked her about it, she would just be like, yeah, I did that. Like, there was no way in covering it up, and that just says, like,
guilt.
There's no guilt. Like, it just shows that she was shown that, like, this is the proper way to take care of this.
Yes.
Like, she was like, yeah, I did that. Why? Like, what's the problem with that? But also there was one point where one little girl just ran up to the teacher with, like, a mark on her cheek, and she's like, Mary just put out a cigarette on my cheek. I'm like, where the fuck did this girl get a cigarette? She's like 6.
England.
I don't think the kids are going to the corner store and being like, hello, I'd just like a pack of fags, please, which is what they call them in England. I'm not.
Yes.
Not a pack of me, just a pack of cigarettes, please. Can I have a pack of fags and a lighter, please? Thank you, Bob. Keep the tip. Bye. Like, where the hell did she get that?
I feel like a lot of 10-year-olds are still smoking. Like, even in this day and age.
Like, what, behind the Catholic school? Just playing hacky sack and smoking. What do you kids do these days?
Big ol' smokers.
I'm only 25. What the fuck is happening?
Love hacky sack.
Fucking shit, kids. Oh my god. And then a year later, she'll be listening to Summer of 69 and wonder what the fuck happened. Jesus fuck. But, like we said, there was another girl that actually wasn't as afraid of her that we would think. Her name was Norma Bell. No relation whatsoever. No. It's like how there's, like, Smith, Johnson, whatever. Like, somehow Bell in that area was just a common name. Like, they weren't even cousins or anything. But Norma... All the sources I found were very nice about it. I'm sure Norma's still alive today, just leading her best damn life. But everything I found was not kind to her. They were like, she was not that intelligent. But she was 2 years older than Mary. She was 12 years old. And you know, like, when you're kids, you're kind of like, you're the big kid, I'm the little kid, you're this, you're that. Mary immediately was just, like, the brains of the operation. Like, if there was the brains and the brawn, Norma would just be the brawn because of her size, because she was obviously bigger than her because she was 12.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, 10. So if Mary told her to do something, I think it was more out of, like, fear. Like, if I don't do something, what's going to happen?
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But weirdly enough, like, just... But during that certain year that they, that these cases happened with Martin and Brian, people noticed stuff started escalating. Scotswood was being demolished in an attempt to kind of like restore the area, just bring it up, try to get people moving in, try to stimulate the economy, do some good shit, not as much bad things. Please, no more bad things. And so they like demolished houses, like derelict houses, like abandoned places. We're just trying to like think like how around here it's like beautify Niagara, like Niagara whatever.
Falls, yeah.
There was one street full of derelict houses that was kind of demolished, but kind of not really. Like, they were obviously through the process during the summer of 68, in the process of going through that street, just demolishing houses, like, systematically.
Yeah.
And so there was half houses, half not houses, and for some reason, I think it's because, like, you know, you call kids Rugrats. They called it Rats Alley, because there's nothing that kids love more than running around in abandoned houses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So that area became known as Rats Alley. But that's when everything started happening, was during that summer. I guess Mary and Norma were just too plain bored. That I don't know if Mary was just like, here, let's do this. I don't know exactly what, but it started the first case on Saturday, May 11th, 1968. Mary and Norma, this kid has no name. Like, we just don't know which kid this is. We just know that this happened. Norma and Mary were very nice. One of the kids playing in Rats Alley, they saw him. He was a cute little 3-year-old. Probably cute. I don't know. There's some ugly-ass 3-year-olds. But let's just assume he's
Most
cute.
Most are cute.
Hey, if he was ugly, I'd still have sympathy. Don't look at me like that.
Ugly or not.
Ugly or not.
Still feel bad.
Ugly or not, he was lured away by Mary and Norma. Like, oh, come on, Johnny, we're going to buy some sweets. My terrible British accent. Come on, let's buy sweets. Do you want anything from the trolley, dear?
Harry Potter, yeah.
Anything from the trolley, dear? Yeah, later that day, he was found wandering the street, dazed and bleeding. So he was probably just smacked on the head with something. And even though police were like, oh, fuck, okay, you probably fell. Let's take you back to your parents, and we'll be good. It's a 3-year-old. Depending on the 3-year-old, they can't verbalize as much to what really exactly happened. Like, depending what you put in front of a 3-year-old, they're going to be like, what is this?
Yeah.
So, no further action was taken, because the kid was probably just like, I went to get some sweets, and then I don't know how I got here.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of... But, then the next day, these girls are very active. They take no rest whatsoever.
Kids have energy.
Kids have... If I could bottle that energy, I'd make a lot of money, but, ain't no rest for the wicked. Kids are little shits. That's no excuse for this, but, a local mother complained to police. I'm going to call her Karen. Karen went to the police, and had said that, hey, police, Bobbies, they're called Bobbies.
Bobbies. I knew it started with a B.
Bobbies.
Woo,
The Bobbies.
yeah.
I just imagine them with their little caps with their little nightsticks, just ready to smack the shit out of someone.
Hazard vest.
Their little hazard vest, just like...
Yeah, and they're no guns.
All right, you fucker, come on. I would even call the little kids fuckers, but come on.
They did have guns back then.
Huh?
Did they have guns back then?
68, I think. Huh?
Because I know they don't have guns
Bicycle.
now.
They probably had the little wee-woo police car, like the cute little ones that look like punch buggies.
Okay, love that.
So, Karen, I'm just calling her Karen. I don't know what the fuck her name is. Karen was like, police, I need to complain. The teachers aren't doing shit. That sounds familiar, even 50 years later. Teachers ain't doing shit, so I'm calling you. So my daughter, Pauline, she's adorable. She's like 10-ish. Like, she's so cute. Yeah, Mary Bell tried to strangle her and shoved sand down her throat.
Oh!
So police were like, okay, we know this little chick's wild, but let's hear it. And Pauline's like, so pretty much Norma pinned her down, probably because Mary said so, or Norma was like upset for Mary, whatever the altercation started, probably with arguing, like kids do. Anyway, like, you're stupid, no, you're stupid. Well, all of a sudden, Pauline's pinned down. Mary grabbed her, immediately went for the throat, like I said, how she does.
Yeah.
But then Mary, once she had her pinned down and Norma had her pinned down, she proceeded, it was in the sandbox, so she proceeded to just shove sand in Pauline's mouth, which was enough to scare the shit out of Norma. Norma just let go and was just like, I ain't watching this, and just runs away.
All right.
Um,
Like kids do, they just flee.
Probably just in fear of what Mary's doing. It's like
Fight or flight.
It's like when you're around that one friend that like just either is strung out on something or just is way too drunk and does something weird, and you're like, man,
Okay,
what the
bye-bye.
fuck are you doing? No, you can't steal that post. No, he's
No,
doing
no,
it.
no.
I'm not. Except she tried to kill someone. But Pauline was able to just get the sand out of her face and run home. After Pauline was able to get the sand out of her mouth and she was okay, the police still didn't. I think they just looked at Mary and were like, yeah, she's 10 years old. We got no statute of anything for a 10-year-old. Like,
Man, that's murder. That's murder. Like, that's a fucking murder attempt.
But
They're just
she
like,
didn't
"Ah,
die."
10-year-old.
but she didn't die.
Attempt.
She didn't die. She's fine. There's no marks. She's just got a raspy throat from sand.
But did you die, though?
But did you die? You did not. Until about a week later, on May 25th, there was just another group of kids just playing around Rat Alley, which just, why would you just let your kids play around a place called Rat's Alley? Like, what are they? Are they just like doing what 90s kids did and like playing in the streets until the street lights turn on and then running home?
That's what I would imagine.
Except you're trying not to step on nails or saws and break through the floors of abandoned houses if they have basements, and try not to die.
Yeah.
Ooh. So, you have adorable, I don't know if you can see his picture, make it worse for you, little Martin Brown.
Oh, he's
He's
so
like
cute.
with his little socks up to his knees, little vest.
Look at his little hair.
Cute little hair. He's so cute. He was playing with his friend's little 4-year-old in the local derelict houses. Why would you let your kids play? I know it's the area, but I still can't get around that. At 5 p.m., so a full ass, like a long time, probably.
Yeah. Sometimes it's dark by 5 o'clock.
A neighbor was just like, hey, Mrs. Martin's mom, so your kid, he's adorable. Something happened. I don't know what happened to him, but can you come with me? So Martin's mom followed him, and they reached one of the houses, and there was just a group of people, and it turns out I was wrong earlier. It wasn't a kid. There was just a man just sobbing because he was probably a construction worker that was just like, oh, I forgot my shit here. And he just saw Martin just dead.
Oh, I can't even imagine that. What a fucking nightmare.
Martin had been found dead in an upstairs room of the house, and police were called in to investigate. The Chronicles said Rat Alley Boy may have died of fright because
Right.
they had no idea what killed him. They just found blood on his face, saliva on his face, probably from drool coming out of his own mouth.
Yeah.
But they were like, we have no damn idea what happened to this kid. So that's like the media speculating, like, they have no answer. Look at this. But it's like, this is terrible. Can you please stop?
Oh, the media.
So while the police are trying to like figure out like what the hell happened, like, okay, these kids were messed with, but this one's dead. We got to figure out this dead kid. 2 days later, police were called into a break-in at the local daycare, like nursery daycare. Mm-hmm. They found, like, when they walked in, just paper was all over the place. Desks were turned over. Shit was just knocked all over the place. Like, you would expect it, like at a retail store, you'd expect it to look like a robbery happened.
Yeah.
But it's a nursery. You don't really have much to take, like baby bottles, like what toys. I don't know. I know it's a pretty like economically
Expensive.
down section of town, but I don't think you would really try to find anything to steal there. They found just a bunch of papers that said just very upsetting things. They said, "I murder so I may come back," which was one that's just frightening. "We murder, watch out." And on another paper it said, "We did murder Martin Brown."
That does sound like a kid wrote it, though. You know what I mean?
Oh, like, it was written in like I have a picture right here. Like it was written in straight up brown marker, like brown crayon, like it looks like a kid.
Yeah, you can tell from the handwriting that was a child. If the grammar didn't set it
you
off.
can tell that it was either a child or just just grabbing the crayon in their fist and just dragging it all over the paper, like that kind of writing.
Yeah.
Except it actually looks a bit nicer than my writing. I went to college.
Mood.
But the notes, like, police looked at this and they're like, okay, someone's obviously, like, teenagers around this town are just shit, so they're probably just trying to, this is a game, this is just a sick joke, because something happened, a kid died, so someone's trying to make a sick joke of it. Yeah. So they just dismissed it as, like, a break-in to the nursery school that Martin probably went to, and just said, like, this is just a nondescript, like, just a stupid prank. It's just a prank, bro. It's just a fucking prank.
Every day, bro.
Tana Mojo's got to deal with that shit the rest of her life. I ain't commenting on it.
That's fake.
Or, like, 15 days until they're divorced. But,
TikTok.
for her own sake, please. But, so that day, because it was a Monday, so kids got school on Monday. That day, Mary went to school and wrote in her school news book, because you know how, like, they, even up into high school, they try to make you keep a journal of all whatever's happening, like, either please write your depressing 10th grade thoughts, or please just keep up with the news, or please just draw something happy so I can deal without you for 5 minutes, as the teacher does. She said, "There were a crowd of people at an old house. I asked what was the matter. There has been a boy who just lay down and died." Which, if it wasn't so terrible, I'd say mood, but damn. She was just like, yeah, he did. Like, damn. The great thing was, at the bottom of her writing, she drew a picture of the boy. Next to him was, like, a bottle with the word tablet along it. And she drew a picture of that workman that was, like, crying, holding Martin. She drew a picture of him finding the body. So, for some reason, because, the teacher always looks over, like, oh, what are you doing? Like, ooh, look at this. I don't know why the teacher didn't just, like, look down and go, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, you drew the crime scene. But I don't know what is the certification program for teaching in the late 1960s in Newcastle, England?
I can't imagine it's good, but when I was a classroom assistant, one girl wrote, like, this depressing-ass poem, and my teacher came up to me. She was like, I know you read it. I checked with her. I took a day with her. I sent her to the counselor's office. She's okay. Like, there was, like, a whole step procedure she had to go through because of this, like, depressing poem. And it wasn't, like, even that bad either.
Like, it was something that you would find on, like, Quizilla or fanfiction.net.
Yeah, like a little angsty
teenager. Or DeviantArt in 2007.
Exactly, yeah. It wasn't, like, bad or descriptive in any way.
Oof. Just, why would you look like, if you saw this, like, because they confiscated her journal later, spoiler alert, and they, like, looked at this, it's like, looking at this, why wouldn't you, like, say, hey, Mary, what did you draw? Like, if anything, I'd encourage anyone just try to find Mary Bell's, like, notebook, pictures of her notebook and, like, her writings. Because, of course, it's a child's drawing, but, like, does she have the workman, like, he has a pickaxe over his shoulder ready to just, like, get rid of some stone? That's what it looks like. She has his hat drawn on top, like this.
Yeah, like one of those cute little old,
Like little,
like
oh,
Irish caps kind of thing.
yeah, like a little, yeah.
Or railroad.
Well,
What?
yeah, she definitely won at the daycare art show that day when
They're like,
the
woo!
day after Martin Brown was murdered. She won the art show on campus.
Woo!
On her little daycare campus after she broke in and wrote notes saying we murdered Martin Brown. Can we just pause for a second? The worst part about filming at your recording at your alumni college campus is that you're just afraid of running into anyone that knows how much of a failure you are.
Ooh. Ooh.
Ooh. They'd be like, hey,
Ooh.
what are you doing with your theater degree? Still working 2 retail jobs. Trying not to die.
Everyone at this campus has seen me cry. It's just...
Everyone at this campus has seen me drunk. Let's be dead honest. I'm glad most of them have graduated and moved far away from here.
I can't wait to graduate, move far away from here.
I'm still stuck here. Woo. So back to Mrs. Martin's mom. This article I'm looking at didn't really give her first name, which she has that right to privacy.
Yeah.
But so following his death, what's the just a quiz, Allie? What's the
Okay.
worst thing someone can do? Let's say, knock on wood of this wood desk, that your cat passed away.
Oh my god, murder. What?
What would be the worst thing that would happen days after which? For you. Emotionally speaking.
Emotionally, I'd kill myself.
No. Like, if someone was to do something, what would destroy you the most emotionally? Please don't do that.
Like, if someone told me they killed my cat,
Take it one step back from someone walking up and saying, yo, I killed your cat.
one step back.
From,
Oh, here's your cat.
close.
Here's your dead cat.
So
I would kill them and myself.
Stop, please. So, how I said this was a close-knit community. So, like a close-knit community, you would probably, like, you know where your neighbors live, right?
Yeah.
So, like any good Samaritan, Mary and Norma kept knocking on Mrs. Martin's mom's door, just like, hi, you miss your son? He's dead. Do you miss him? I know he's dead. Is he okay? And then the one time, like, they just kept doing that and putting this woman in more and more distress. This poor woman. And just, like, I feel like she must not have had, like, a, like peephole through her door. Like, because I feel like if she, like, kept hearing the knock and, like, either saw Norma or, like, didn't see anyone, because I'm assuming these girls were too short, says me, a 4'11", 25-year-old that can't look over a counter. Just before Martin's funeral, his mom's probably dressed all in black, like, really, like, upset.
Yeah.
The girls visited the house, like, obviously not, like, with the whole neighborhood or whoever, like, family, just like, oh, we're gonna pay our respects, we're gonna do this. The girls just knock on the door, just like, hey, we'd like to see Martin. And she's like, oh, no, honey, Martin's dead. And they're like, yeah, we know, we want to see him in his coffin. And his
I'd
mother
fucking
just
punt
like,
the kid.
huh?
I'd fucking punt those kids.
Oh no, she closed the door before she could punt those kids, and just collapsed, like, sobbing. Like, like, how much, like, kids
That
are fucking
poor
annoying as shit
woman.
anyway. Like, kids just like, why is the sky blue? Why is this? Why are you holding this person's hand? Is that your boyfriend? Do you kiss? Do you do this? Imagine just that kind of consistency, but with, do you miss your dead son? Like, that's fucking... So at least that took up some of the girls' time, and they were finishing up school. And then a few months later, shit struck again, and on Wednesday, July 31st, 3-year-old Brian just toddled outside the house. I say toddled because he's only 3.
Toddler.
Such as
He
toddler.
toddles.
Yes, toddles, toddle, like weebles wobble, but they definitely fall down because they're fucking clumsy.
Oh, so clumsy.
Ryan joined the other kids watching the demolition of houses in Rat Alley.
Yeah, okay. Normal.
Like, just look at
Yeah,
this.
maybe not normal
Look at
for
this
a
little
3-year-old.
chub. His little chub.
Oh.
And he has hair like a classical composer. Like, look at that shit.
Yes, he does.
Like, what the fuck?
He's got baby brows.
Oh, girl, those shits are painted on.
He's cute, yeah.
So as Brian, along with the other kids, are just like, oh, look at that damn house fall. Oh, shit, boy, look at that. At some point, who walks up but Mary and Norma, who at this point, like, just in general, why are these kids, like, just not getting that vibe from her? Just like, ooh, that girl
Yeah.
evil. Ooh, shit. Oh, no, hell.
And usually kids are really good about that, too.
Oh, no.
Kids
are,
have, like, a sixth sense for, like, evil people.
oh,
For
yeah.
things.
Like, kids,
Vibes.
regardless of whatever, kids get vibes. I don't know if that's, like, kids are more susceptible to energy. And
Yeah, they
Me
are.
going slightly spiritual in that moment, but kids and dogs can sense ghosts. Kids and dogs know if people are bad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he maybe just, it's a 3-year-old, maybe he's like, this person's bigger than me, I have to listen to them.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But at some point they picked him up and were just like, yeah, we're gonna play over here. And that was
Who the
last
fuck just
time.
lets their 3-year-old running around, like,
Um
without a guardian?
well, apparently Brian did have like an older sister, or like
Okay.
he was a member of a set of siblings, just one of a set.
So they're just kind of, like,
They were all
Forgot.
doing their own shit. Or maybe
Yeah,
Mary and
okay.
Norma were like, oh, we're gonna play around with Brian. And they're like, okay, you're way older than him. That's weird, but okay, go ahead.
yeah, okay.
Ooh, look at that. They're probably gonna play house and pretend he's the baby, except actually murder the shit out of him.
Yeah, because, like, most 10-year-old girls, if they see a baby, they're like, oh, yeah, play house, baby. Real baby to play house with.
A real baby to play house and dress up.
But that's
'Cause
normal
that-
10-year-olds.
That's normal 10-year-olds. That sure as shit ain't these kids.
No.
That night, so Brian's mom was like, yo, where's your brother? And she's like, wait, I thought he was home. Like, his sister, like, it was pretty much the I thought you had him
Yeah.
situation. So the police were called, just like, hey, you know that kid, he, like, got murdered a couple months ago? Yeah, well, now my small child, also smaller than him, is missing, so please help. So the police, went looking, and they actually ended up going to the place. Mary and Norma were like, oh, we're going to go play with Brian over here. And they went to that exact area, around that exact area, and they found Brian's body. He was murdered. Snippets of hair had been cut from his, like, just from his head, like, just
Yeah.
for no reason, it looks like. And there were weird, like, it wasn't like puncture wounds to, like, make an effect, like, I'm going to kill this kid. Like, it was like looked more like
abrasion. Like abrasion type.
more like, I wonder what will happen if I poke this. Like, it looked more
okay.
curious, like, ooh, huh.
Okay.
Like, I have a dead body in front of me. What is this?
Oh.
Like if you were in biology class dissecting a frog, like, that's the only way I can imagine it. Like, you're, like, poking at it, except with, like, a sharp object. Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And the perpetrator had also attempted to, like I said, mutilate his no-no bits. But it's, like, attempted, so it's like, if it was an adult,
It would
have been, like, just oh, that shit gone. Like, Lorena bobbited it, gone, kind of thing. Like, bye. But it's, like, either that, just looking at it, you're like, either the person doesn't have the heart, or they don't have the strength, or it's more like a what the hell, what will happen if I do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So just looking at the evidence, like, it was kind of like haphazardly, like how I said, like, just back and forth, like, weird cuts for no reason and stuff. It was like, this is probably, the person that did this was probably young, was probably one of the kids that was playing around in the neighborhood. And an autopsy concluded that he had been strangled, and the wounds on Brian's legs were an attempt to leave, like, on his legs and on his stomach were attempts to, like, leave initials on the body. Like, someone was like, I want to write that this was me, like an artist marking, like, a picture. Like,
Yeah.
This is me, this is mine, boop, 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 I
Uh-huh.
killed this boy. That jingle won't go far.
No.
But at the same time, so police are like, okay, maybe we actually have some sort of an idea what's going on here. We have 2 boys murdered in a construction area, both of them super young.
Yeah.
Both of them seemingly wandered off from this same area and then ended up in another abandoned area not far off. As police spoke to everyone, like just tried to do their general investigation, aside from the fact that people were probably like, yo, you gotta check out this chick, she's fucking weird. Even though she's 10, she's fucking weird. They noticed that pretty much, when, think of this way, that one case that happened this past year that the one guy was like throwing himself into all the investigation efforts to find his wife and 2 kids, but it turns out he was actually the one that murdered them.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly kind of what Mary did. Anytime they were like doing a mass like investigation, or if they were like asking the community or like doing like a podium, like I'm asking you for information, Mary was always there. Not even Mary and Norma, it was like Mary was always there.
Huh.
She was there, she would listen and tell you what was being said. At the same time, she also was, as kids, kids are just, they boast about whatever happened. They'd be like, I had kids in my church school class going, I kissed a boy on the bus, like all the time. Or I did this, I did that. I watched my friend walk into an electric fence and he didn't die. Ooh, boo, there you go.
Sounds like kids.
That definitely sounds like kids. And it's frightening. But instead, Mary was running around the playground going, I had strangled a boy. Maybe not in that sing-songy fashion, but pretty much I strangled a boy. I strangled someone, and everyone's like, yeah, we know you always fucking try to choke us.
Yeah,
like,
we
Jesus
know.
Christ, we know you do this. Like, that's the sad part, is that they're like, yeah, we know you do this.
Not surprised.
They're not surprised. Like, yeah, you crazy.
We've been new, sis.
We've known this has happened. You try to drown someone in the sandbox. We know this.
Ooh.
But, even the kids around school were just like, so we're scared of her, but for some reason we're extra scared of her now. Like something is going on, like the whole vibey thing. Like something's different now, something's weird. And even like the teachers, as much as they couldn't notice anything else from what has happened with Mary, were like, these girls are acting a little weird. They're acting different. Following a meeting, police decided, they're like, you know what, we're gonna investigate this girl, we're gonna talk to her. The first visit to Mary's house, Billy, who I guess got out of jail. Good job, Billy. You completed your sentence for armed robbery, which somehow lasted nowhere near 10 years. I don't know, things are different in England, but He had a dog, so he refused to allow the police to see Mary, because obviously he's like, this is my kid. You literally do not talk to her unless you go through me.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, you walk through this fence, my dog will go after you, so leave. So the police were like, well, that is great. But the police realized there was a kid actually around the area where Brian was murdered. The youngest kid with the little chubby cheeks.
Yeah.
So through their like interviews, like through the neighborhood, they're like, there was a kid that they probably like looked. The other kids were, because the kid was 9, but mentally speaking, he was at like 4 years old.
Okay.
So like the other kids, just generally how kids like treat people, they're probably like, oh, he's stupid, he doesn't know anything. Like that's just the kid mentality of it. Regardless of anything. But how he said it, he's like, oh yeah, I saw Mary with Brian. She was trying to like massage his neck, and it's like he was not. She's like, she was telling him he had a sore throat and she'd make it better. And then Brian went to sleep. So it's like Mary like just hearing, Mary probably was like, oh, you have a sore throat, let me do this. And then she like just suffocated him. So for then, Mary and Norma were just taken in and questioned by police along with a child psychologist, because they're way too young. Obviously, they don't understand what's going on. Despite how smart they might seem, they don't know what's going on to the fullest extent. The psychologist said that Mary seemed Like, she was putting on the tough girl act, but she was, like, not able to relax whatsoever. Like, she was just tense the whole time. Mary just consistently, like, regardless of the fact that she ran around the playground saying, like, I did this, like, she was just like, I didn't do this, where's my mom, where's my dad, where is everyone, where's Norma, how's my dog? Like, she's a kid, she's gonna get distracted regardless of whatever she did.
I'm surprised they could question her without, like, one of her parents being there. Because, like,
Which
now
is
you
true.
could never do that.
No, now you can never do that, or at least with, like, it being, like, the two-way mirror kind of thing where the parent can see the whole time, or if the parent's right there, or you have to, like, contact the parent, like, immediately and say, hey, we got your kid. Like those Slender Man murderers, like, that was one thing they said, like, why weren't the kids didn't understand Miranda rights, the kids didn't understand what was going on, but of course this is the
Weren't they, like, 15, though?
they were like, yeah, like 15, but
They understood.
but it's also that this is the States, and with Mary it's England, so like I said, they could have different, especially in the 1960s, but Mary was smart, and police just looked at her and were like, you literally do not understand what is happening right now. She showed extreme intuition during police interviews, and despite her consistent denials, evidence just kept on piling up. Aside from that one kid literally saying, like, he saw Mary strangling Brian. The scissors used to mark Brian, those scissors that they said, the rusty ones that were next to his body, were found near the scene. The police then linked up the notes found in the nursery break-in with the girls and more evidence when the teacher actually decided to look at Mary's journal. She was like, oh shit, she done did. And she's like, oh, you want to see this? And the cops are like,
That's
yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, that would help, Miss Mabel. That would help a lot. Thank you.
Mabel.
It was then that they found the piece Mary written on Martin's body being found. The one damning piece was that Mary said that marked, like, she did the map of the crime scene, essentially. But aside from the fact, like, a kid can imagine whatever, because obviously it's a whole group of people. You'll hear it through the grapevine. Like, the construction worker walked in and saw Martin's body. But what the police didn't tell the public was that there was a bottle of pills next to Martin. And that's what Mary drew next to Martin with an arrow pointing at it saying tablets. That was an information that was never disclosed to the public. So with that being enough evidence, on August 8th, both girls were charged with the murder of Brian Howe.
Okay.
They were kept at the police station before both being sent to separate, like, kind of, like, reformatories, like juvies, like separate juvies, like keeping them away from each other so they couldn't, like, mess up each other's stories. Both supervised around the clock by female police officers.
Thank God.
Mary was sent to Monkton Hall Hospital near Newcastle in order to undergo a pre-trial mental health assessment.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, one of the most notable things was that, and it goes further into trial, Mary, like, as much as she can't, it was said she couldn't calm down, she maintained that tough girl, like, exterior, like, you can't break, like, just, like, how teachers went to her and said, did you do this? That she would be like, yeah, I did, and show no emotion. Mary kind of kept that facade, and if it was anything to her, it would probably be anger that showed a bit. Meanwhile, Norma was freaking the hell out. Like any kid would, just like, you're around people you don't know, you're being told things you don't understand, all that stuff. During the trial, because of their ages, BBC, ITV, all the British news stations, they were, like, banned from showing anything.
Yeah.
Like, because they're so young. They were probably saying, oh, the defendants in the trial, this, that. It would be the lightest thing they could say.
Yeah, names and pictures.
Yeah, because of the age of the victims, it probably was getting mass media anything, but they wouldn't say anything as far as to who the girls were, what their ages were. Like, obviously under 17? I don't know what the age is for England. They were, well, by our standards, they're under 18, so, and apparently ours are pretty high standards, so, as far as, like, doing anything.
Yeah.
During the trial, both girls, it was just pointing fingers at each other. Like, it's sad because it's like what little kids do, like if a vase breaks in the house.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you did it. No, you did it. No, you pushed me. Well, you did this. You did that. Like,
No, you.
But it was, you told me to murder him. No, it was your idea to do this. No, it was you.
Yeah.
It was you. It was so back and forth. It was terrible. At the same time, there was one point in the trial that she was cross-examined. Mary was cross-examined. And whoever the prosecutor was getting so down to the wire, like, with questions. Like, to the point that she was showing no emotion, no emotion, no emotion. And then he was like, have you ever tried to strangle a pigeon, of all things? Which just sounds weird. But
Makes
if you
sense.
hear it from the kids in the schoolyard that Mary's been trying to strangle people, you're going to ask questions
Animals,
weird. And as soon as he was like, have you ever tried to strangle an animal? Essentially, she just snapped. And she was just angry for the rest of the trial. Which is part of the McDonald triad with kids, with if a kid's going to grow up to be like any mentally unstable serial killer, sociopathy, something. The McDonald triad is the whole wetting the bed, arson, and pretty much animal cruelty or trying to kill animals.
Small animals.
Like, that's the triad. I don't know if Mary ever had the other two. I would only assume wetting the bed because that's how
The
kids
household.
are. And then just the trauma part of trauma, kids, it's just a correlation that kids, like, could wet the bed a lot. Kids wet the bed, especially if they're terrified.
Yeah.
But literally the only thing I could say no to is the arson, but also she would act violent towards her schoolmates and break into houses, break into the nursery. There was also a point where a relative said, like, oh, I turned around for 1 second and I look back and Mary almost has her hands around my kid's neck. And it's like, this shouldn't be something that is like a matter of fact. Like, oh yeah, the dog went around this, that. The dog did this. The dog caught the ball. Mary tried to kill my kid. Like, that shouldn't be something that's, but throughout it ended up being like 9 days of trial. Mary was just answering questions, just like yes, no, yes, this, yeah, just like on point and sharp with everything. Meanwhile, Norma was just like, I don't know, this,
Scared.
and like eyes darting around, just like, it seemed very, like I said, that if there was the brains of the operation, it was Mary. Mary knew what she was doing, and Norma seemed like she was coerced into doing these things.
Yeah.
Especially if she's under fear of what the other person can do. And especially now with Brian, in Brian's case, at least she saw Mary, or at least Mary told her she murdered someone else. So she probably said, if I could do this to him, I could do it to you. I don't care that you're bigger than me.
Exactly.
At the end of the trial, the jury was like, okay, what are the psychologist's findings? And they said Mary showed no remorse, no anxiety, no anything during the whole process, and said that Mary demonstrated psychopathic tendencies and was dangerous. Which, no fucking duh.
Yeah.
Like, at the same time, it's just sad because it's like you look at her and you're like, this is totally just a product of her home environment. Like,
Yeah.
you could argue nature versus nurture because her mom could have had whatever sociopathy, so like mental anything, but at the same time, it is clearly just she was abused to no end.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like, as far as we know, not horribly beaten or anything, but like sexually abused, mentally abused. She saw violence every day.
Yeah.
So like that just has such a terrible effect that you had a 10-year-old kid running around trying to strangle her classmates and then ended up killing a 3 and 4-year-old. Like, and given that diagnosis, in December of that year, Mary was found guilty of manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility and sentenced to life imprisonment.
Life for a 10-year-old. Wow.
We'll get to that. Norma was acquitted on the grounds of being coerced and simple-minded, which is like,
They're like, she dumb.
which is like, imagine like For nothing, just like, even like, just as Norma's parents, just like, how can my kid get into this? Like, why did she? I thought Mary was okay. I thought this. I thought that. And then just having the jury looking and being like, your kid's fucking stupid. Acquitted.
It's fucking stupid.
Now, I know it says kind of like life imprisonment, but what England does for, like, especially when it's minors that commit crimes, is they say, in quotes, held at Her Majesty's discretion.
Huh.
Because
I
obviously
like that.
Queen Liz, she knows everything. But pretty much it's like, until we think you're okay, you're going to be in prison. When we
Okay.
think you're okay, we're going to let you out. But there's going to be a long time until we decide that you're cool to go. Because obviously you fucking killed someone.
Yeah.
Like, you did something serious. But at the same time, it's like, you're not going to incarcerate a 10-year-old up until they're like 90 or so. like people strong. Like, who knows how long she would have lived in prison. Like, because she was so young, it kind of was felt that the system had a responsibility to rehabilitate her at the same time. She was only 10.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because of how unusual and unique it was, seeing, like, as stupid as it is, somehow the system, maybe just from a societal standpoint, like, just of how it is, they were less geared to handle a young girl being in prison for these issues rather than a
Yeah.
young boy. Like, I don't know if it's so gendered as that, but they were just like, it's weird enough seeing, like, women serial killers, even though they still out there, they're frightening. But it's even weirder to see, like, a little girl and she fucking strangled someone.
Yeah.
But there wasn't even really a thought where Mary would serve her sentence or hold her first night, because it was literally like, we don't know what to do. This is the first time this has happened. Wee woo, what do we do?
Wee woo.
Wee woo, what do we do? Mary was eventually placed in prison, and like a remand home in Norwood, like, kind of like back and forth, like, between getting mental help and serving out her sentence. She went to Red Bank Secure School in Newton Le Willows, Lancashire. English towns are hard. Under care of all the professionals during the 6 years she spent there.
6
But-
years? 6 years?
She spent 6 years at this certain facility,
Okay.
but she was essentially like a juvie.
Yeah.
But she was one girl and 22 other boys were there. Like, she
Ooh.
was literally the only girl there. So plans were set by the Home Office to set up a girls' unit on site. Like, this is how unprepared they were, like, to handle a girl in the criminal system. Like, they were like, oh, these boys, they're in rough and tumble gangs. They're doing this, they're doing that. Gangs of New York, but we in England. Like, that kind of, like, just little,
Yeah.
like, Oliver Twist, like the little orphan gangs just fighting each other and ending up in juvie. Even during this whole time, the one person was that decided to go in on everything and take full advantage of the media following and media anything was Betty, her mama. So Betty began to visit Mary regularly, but it was an anguished and resentful relationship.
Ooh.
So pretty much Mary was literally, like, as she grew up and, like, went through therapy and stuff, Mary was like, this is not like this is literally your fault, but, like, the way you treated me caused me to be this way. Like, this is not
Yeah.
my fault completely. Like, you have to own up for what you did. And Betty was just like, no. Still by like 72, which was like, Mary was like 16-ish
Okay.
around that time. Betty was just still, like, drinking, doing drugs, doing all her shit.
Whoa.
And she even gave a television interview where she pretty much alluded that any marital issues between her and Billy Bell were causing Mary's behavior. And Mary was like, no. At the same time, it makes more sense. Betty's giving interviews, she's doing this, she's doing that, but she's also selling stories to the press and offering them pieces of writing from Mary's own, like, journals from home.
Are you
Like, she is
kidding me?
literally just
Dear
profiting.
God.
Just profiting off of the fact that her daughter just murdered these kids. And she's like, are you okay in prison? It sucks that I did all that stuff to you. Oh, hey, I have an interview. Bye. Throughout that, as much as it was said held at Her Majesty's discretion, Mary was incarcerated for a total of 12 years.
Wow.
So by the time she was 22, she was out of prison.
How'd that go? How'd that go?
She was assessed by psychologists throughout her imprisonment, but she never acknowledged her own guilt or denied it. I think she was probably just like, well, it is what it is. Like,
Yep, I did it.
like, I know I did it. Like when she was a kid and she was like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
Like, not saying it was done with no emotion, but she was just like dismissive of her crimes. But she was just like, yes, I know I did this.
Uh-huh.
Like, I can't go back and change that. And I know why I did it now, but I can't change that.
Okay.
More dismissive than remorseful. But by the time she was 22, they were like, we're gonna move you around, and you're not really a threat to children, and you're 23 now, and you go in now. But because she was a kid when she committed her crimes, when she was released from prison, she was given a complete new identity. So that media wouldn't follow her, media wouldn't do that. Kind of like a witness protection program-y thing, but for child
For the
murderers.
guilty party.
For the guilty party. Well, it kind of makes sense
Yeah,
because, like,
the child.
if you're a kid when you committed your crimes, like, I guess, again, like I said, this is England, this is not the States. No matter what it is, when you do whatever it is you do, you were a child when you did that. And if you really believe in the rehabilitative side of incarceration, like, not just, like, jailing someone and having them stay there, like, actually rehabilitating them to make sure they aren't possibly going to do it again. Like, if you actually treat someone, you're going to want them to have the best chance. And because of her mom being how she was, remember how the media was, like, not allowed to show anything of the trial?
Yeah.
Think of how her name probably got out there more so because her mom was selling interviews.
Uh-huh.
So, literally speaking, because of her mother, which it might not have all been her mother, it could have been other factors, but she had to get a new identity or else she would never have been able to, like, live outside anywhere.
Yeah, we still do that today. We just...
She got lifelong anonymity under a new name. No one knows the name. And she has a daughter. She gave birth just a few years after leaving prison. So around 25, 26, she had her own kid. And she's now a grandmother.
Oh.
She is still alive in England under whatever name she has now, just that way. And this is just something I found weird. Like, it was reported that some staff, during, like, her stay in prison, like, even, like, took her home to play with their children due to concerns about her having no contact with women.
Yeah.
Because she was around boys the whole time. So they were like, you literally have no girls your age to play with. This is weird, but I'm a cop, and I have a taser or whatever weapon I have in the 70s. So you are going to hang out with my kid, and then we're going to take you back to juvie.
Makes
Like,
sense.
just so she'd have some other female contact.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you are around boys, especially, like, the very old-fashioned, like, you keep girls and boys away from each other, or all they're going to do is the sex. Which I'm assuming did also happen. I forgot. There was, like, a bunch of different things back and forth with Mary Bell that I found that I was just like, But do research at your own discretion, please. Like, even at one point, Mary actually escaped prison when she was, like, 20.
I can't say I blame her.
Like, imagine, like, you remember the movie Shawshank Redemption? I'm assuming you guys had to watch in school, too. Well, okay, fine, you didn't. I'm just old. Fine.
What school made you watch that?
Our school made us watch it.
We watched it?
With Morgan Freeman.
Oh, that's why, because I didn't
With
take
Morgan
psych.
Freeman. I'm Morgan Freeman. I wish I was Morgan Freeman. Don't take out my Morgan Freeman voice.
Soundbite.
But there's one person that he was in prison for so long, like an older man. He was in prison for so long. They're like, hey, and like he He took care of the library. He did the research stuff. He was, like, he found his place in prison because he was there for so long. And they're like, hey, buddy, guess what? Your parole was approved. And he went to live on the outside. He could not handle it.
Yeah.
He was bagging groceries. He was doing this, that.
It's scary.
And he couldn't handle it, and he ended up... I'm sorry if you haven't seen Shawshank Redemption, but you've had a long enough time to watch it. The man ends up hanging himself because he can't deal with it.
Doesn't
But
surprise me at all.
at the same time, that is an adult who went into prison. I think he was an adult when he went to prison. I haven't seen the movie in a while. But then imagine you are a 10-year-old going into prison. You are literally going through puberty in prison behind bars, and then the vast majority of the people you're around are boys your age because there's no girls to talk to or compare stories to or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then you exit prison at 23 years old, and 3 years later you have your own kid.
What year did she leave prison?
She got out when she was 23, so she was 10, 68, 13 years, like 81.
So, like, imagine even how much society changed from when she went in to when she went out.
Exactly.
Like, technology, like, so much had changed. Cold War.
Almost the whole Cold War. She still got 10 years left, but she...
Yeah.
Her life seemed better when she's in prison. Makes you think, like, the case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, where she even said, which, of course, that's definitely a slightly different case in terms of, like, the abuse and everything else that went on, and that she killed her own mom to, like, free herself rather than taking her anger out on anyone else. But she was literally a prisoner in her own situation, but she flourished, gained all her weight back, did this, like, is reading, is doing this, that, like, I hate saying flourished in prison, but even she acknowledges, she's like, my life was so bad outside that
Prison was
what else would you expect?
better.
Prison's so much better than what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
Which is sad to think. And even now, like, people, like, try to get her for interviews, not really happening. Obviously, there was one person, an author, she has 2 books on the case. Gita Sarini. The books are called Cries Unheard, under different titles, but the first one's about Mary Bell and covering the case. She was a journalist and an author that covered the case, like, right in the courtroom and everything, like, was writing things down. Mm-hmm. And then her second book was her interviewing Mary later, like, after Mary's out of prison. Mary's her grandmother, Mary's this, Mary's that. And
that would be interesting.
Controversy came from that because one thing you can't do, like, in prison, like, when you're in prison, like, is make a profit off your own crimes. Like, if you try to sell a book and publish it in prison, you can't market off of it.
Yeah.
Because it's like we are literally paying the criminal to listen about their crimes. That's kind of shit. Controversy came up because Mary Bell, for the second book, was getting some of the money from it.
But
so
wasn't it after prison?
It was completely after prison. But at the same time, people were seeing it as you were making money off of what you did.
Yeah.
All those years ago, even though it's literally like an interview published and made money. But then money could be going to her daughter, to her granddaughter. It could be going to something else completely.
Yeah.
And it's just in her name. But at the same time, it just seems sketch on the outside.
Yeah.
To people are just like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? But yeah, that is the case of Mary Bell. What a first episode.
I know. It doesn't surprise me much, though, you know what I mean? Growing up in a house with, like, prostitution, like, ongoing within the home, and her seeing it, she was obviously going to get involved at some point.
Like,
whether she wanted to or not.
Like, if it was completely separate, like, she's in her room, they were doing whatever, and that, like, okay, but she was, like, right there.
Know. Yeah, you can see it, anything like that. And you even mentioned it was, like, BDSM type shit. So, like, that choking, she probably just saw it happen.
She saw it happening, and who knows how her dad reacted when he was violent.
Yeah, and then,
it was never elaborated on how he acted when he was, like, drunk and belligerent.
I don't even know.
It could have been certain things from, like, throwing bottles to, like, even threatening with a sharp object. who knows?
Yeah. Or like when it was like the little 3-year-old boy, right? Mutilated, like his.
Yeah. Like, just seeing that,
no
like,
parts.
that even shows that,
It kind of showed what was going behind the scenes, because
Yeah.
no 10-year-old is going to think to do something like that unless she's been exposed to it.
yeah, or because of how she mutilated his own obits, shows that she saw what it was, because
Yeah.
he was half naked when he was found.
Uh-huh.
She knew what that was and associated such bad things with it that was the first thing she did.
Exactly. So it's you kind of definitely blame it all on her mom. Like,
oh, no. Like, I wholeheartedly blame the ever-living shit out of her mom. Like, people could have remorse. People could have, like, oh, I didn't realize, like, me doing this later, like, slightly emotionally neglecting my son could lead him to be a murderer. Or,
but this was so
but
direct.
this is such, like, the thing that pissed me off more was that stuff was found out and you couldn't retroactively do anything about it. Like, say, hey, Betty, you done some fucked up shit, and you're going to prison. Like, at that time, anyway, she's, like, old as shit. So, like, you couldn't do much of anything. But even, like, at the same time, it's, like, if Betty's family, when stuff was first happening, like, when she was first trying to, like, do away with Mary, give her away,
Yeah.
kill her, do all these things, if they stepped in and did something then, like, she could have had some mental issues or developmental issues anyway because of all those sleeping pills or whatever else. Who knows? Maybe she could have even gotten into alcohol. You never know. But she could have been 10 times as better off if her family, like her grandparents, her someone, just took her out of that. Or if she even went with that strange lady on the street.
Just leave with this damn stranger. It would have been much
just
better.
take this baby, please.
Yeah.
God.
I'm surprised, like, mostly, like, if you're a police officer or a detective or whatever the hell, and you know, like, a 10-year-old girl mutilated a little boy's, like, no-no parts, wouldn't you be suspicious? Like, you have to know something happened to that girl for her to do that.
At the same time, I think it's just psychology has taken so many leaps and bounds in the past, like, few decades. And this is the mid to late 60s, which I can't say anything. It could have gotten that far, but at the same time, there might not have even been a correlation to this and that. Like, at that point, they just thought, like, Mary's this... Oh, look, Mary's this fucked up kid.
Crazy.
This kid's crazy. She's gonna shank you. Like,
they didn't think too much into it.
They probably looked at it like Mary saw it and was like, I don't have this. Why does he have this? Snip. Like, they probably just put that kind of simple 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
Where it was so much deeper than that and should have got proper investigation. Especially even looking at, like, not saying it's her any of, like, putting the whole thing on her dad, but even looking at, like, oh, Mary Bell? Huh. Billy Bell. Billy Bell was just released for armed robbery. Maybe something's wrong with his family.
Yeah.
Lord almighty. I need a drink.
I want to see what happens to Gianna when she has to edit this.
My poor sister.
She goes fucking crazy. Can't wait till the next episode. Have to see that.
Oh, yeah. With Mary, I definitely encourage further research, though, because especially, like, I know there's definitely, like, accounts of her time in, like, prison and mental health facilities and other certain shit. Like, when she was 20, there was, like, some sort of transport that didn't necessarily go the right way, and she and one of the other girls, like, booked it. And they were running around for a little bit, and then were captured and went back.
She said, yeet.
She looked at the car, and she was like, this bitch empty. Yeet. Thanks for listening to the first episode of our podcast, guys.
Stay tuned for more of this.
Whatever this is.
Whatever this might be.
And we'll catch you on the flip side, like a true goddamn 90s kid.
Oh, she was wicked. She was. I think there's no question about it.
There was a feeling that the ordinary compassion
or emotions of warmth towards the rest of the world were not there. Mary's method was to massage the necks of the boys and tell them they had a sore throat and that she would make it better. And her grip tightened and tightened until they caused the deaths.